Greetings and welcome to week 8. The fundamental question for this week is this: can problems in the international system only be managed through the use of power, through the use of different theoretical lenses, or can the problems in the international system be solved? So the difference there is important. Management versus finding a solution. Realists and liberals, in different ways, whether they use power, the threat of force, institutions, interdependency, they use these things to manage the international system, but they don't really solve the underlying issues within they manage. The focus for this week is on a lens called constructivism. Constructivism came to the fore in the 80s, and then in the 90s it gained some strength after the fall of the Soviet Union. So the idea that the constructivists have is that social relationships are more important than material relationships. What do I mean by that? In the balance of power, the whole idea of the relationship is based on the material capabilities of states. What they have, what they can produce, how wealthy they are, how military powerful they are. So the relationships are based on materials. So that's what drives the relationships. That's what creates the balance of power. Constructivists see things differently. It's not about the disparity or equality in the amount of material capabilities that a state has, but it's about the relationships that the state has. So social relationships are as important or more important than the material capabilities and the balance between states of material capabilities. For example, the United States and Canada share the largest border in the world, or one of the largest borders in the world, the largest unguarded border in the world, certainly. Why wouldn't Canada feel threatened by the material capability, the overwhelming material capability of the United States? Why isn't Canada rushing to increase its military power or to build a fence to protect it from the materially very powerful United States? And the answer is because of the social relationship between the two countries. So even though Canada has a giant and incredibly powerful country just to its south, it's not threatened, doesn't feel the need to balance or to bandwagon, as we talk about with the security dilemma, because of the relationship between the two states. So, constructivists see social relationships to be as important as material relationships. And the understanding that states have of each other is another part of that puzzle. So, what do? Well, we'll go through it this week looking at a couple case studies. The first one is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, there is an incredible disparity in the amount of power between the State of Israel and the West Bank and the Gaza Strip that make up the areas where Palestinians, or where maybe one day the State of Palestine will be. But the relationship there is terrible between the two. There is an incredible lack of trust. There is a history. There is difference in religion and core beliefs. So difference in socioeconomic status, difference in the strength of military. So there's a material capability disparity, and there's a huge gap between the two groups as far as their social understanding of the other goes and their level of trust. So it is a conflict that has lasted for decades and decades and decades. And there have been moments of hope, moments where you think that things are going to get better, and then they don't. In this time, in 2012, it's complicated even more because of the amount of energy that is focused on Syria and the Arab Spring in general, and then of course Iran. So the Palestinians have taken a back seat. So this conflict that has dominated headlines for decades is now really on the back burner, to the point that when Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the United States a few weeks ago, they didn't even mention the Palestinians in any of the public forums in which the two leaders of the countries spoke. And that's almost unprecedented. So the question is, can a problem like this be solved? Can we not just manage, because it's being managed right now, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is being managed by the two sides. Can it be solved? Some would say virtually impossible. Others would say if you change the understanding, constructivists would say if you change the understanding between the two groups, then a solution is possible. So, first constructivism, then the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Next week we're going to begin looking at nuclear weapons and what has happened in the international system since the advent of the nuclear weapon and in the nuclear age. So, to prep us for that, right now 50 leaders from countries all over the world are meeting in Seoul, South Korea at a nuclear security summit. And they will, over the next few days, discuss ways to make the international system secure, not only from states, but also from non-state actors who may acquire nuclear weapons. So it will be about ensuring the security of the international system against the threat of nuclear weapons. It's a fascinating case study because just to the north of where they were going to be meeting in Seoul is North Korea. The latest country, the last country in the nuclear club to test a nuclear weapon. They did it in 2006. And so you have a regime that's seen by many as rogue and dangerous. A new leader has just come into power in North Korea. It was a hereditary change. A father died, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un, his son, 27, 28 years old, has taken his place. And so the world is watching to see what this nuclear-armed military state, what moves the new leader makes to solidify his role and power within North Korea, and then his ability to project that power into the international system and specifically into the region. So we will focus in our daily notes a lot on the nuclear summit leading into our study next week of the world in the international system since the advent of nuclear weapons. So that's our week. 3 things: constructivism, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, pay attention to the nuclear summit. Other than that, we'll keep track as daily events happen. Thanks for being a part of the class, and I wish you a good week.